Got the old Vectrex hooked up. Cole's playing with the dog. Guys, I have a little time to play. You get something to drink? I'll play a little Mindstorm.
Come on, Blue, you want to play? Okay, sit. Lay down. Roll over. Lay down. Lay down. Roll over. Good. Up. Give me paw. Good boy. Hey! Oh my God, Blue's a pig! Run! Ah!
Bees? There's no bees in here. Bees. Hi everybody, thanks for joining me today. Today in Glen's Retro Show, we're going to install a Buzzoff kit for a Vectrex. Now the Vectrex was a console from 1982-1983 that had its own vector monitor built into it. It was a great system, but the audio had a lot of feedback, a lot of noise. So today we're going to put a little part in. It's not expensive, not hard to do, and it's supposed to give crystal clear sound. Let's go find out if that's true. Come on, let's go. Right. I got my kit yesterday from Charles Tweedy, his Buzzoff kit for the Vectrex. Now, if you own a Vectrex, you already know this, but if you don't, the Vectrex is a home console from around 1982 that was original because it had its own monitor built into the gaming console. The thought behind it was you wouldn't need to use your television and take it away from your parents watching All in the Family or MASH, and you could play your games. And the plus side was it used vector lines instead of bitmap. And some arcades back in the day like Tempest, Asteroids, Lunar Lander used vector graphics, and Star Wars all used vector graphics, and they were pretty good for what they were. They allowed for scaling and rotation in a way that bitmapping really couldn't do it. But the Vectrex had one annoying factor, at least for a lot of people that complain about it, is you get a buzzing sound when you turn it on, and that's because the amp circuit is on the power board and it picks up a lot of feedback, and it's part of its charm. So some people may not want to do this, but it's a give or take. I'd rather have cleaner sound than hearing a constant buzzing from the console. So I did order this kit from Charles. And it came relatively quickly in a nice little box here with a nice little honeycomb design on it. And I guess you must know me very well. I got a stress controller here, which is really nice. I thank him for that. But the box itself was really well packaged. You can see he's got a nice decal in here describing his Vectrex Buzzoff. And this is revision number 2. And he's got some pretty good documentation here. So let's go through and see what came in the box other than the stress controller here. We have a printout of the Vectrex main board to show where we're going to be connecting the wires. Very detailed instructions here. The actual Buzzoff board is located in here, and he does test them. Tested good. And over here he has some dielectric grease and some other items to actually clean your potentiometer, so you don't have any scratching sound when you turn the knob. I mean, these machines are over 35 years old. This is kind of maintenance that should be done at this point anyway. And he does include everything, and he gives very clear instructions. As well, I'll put a link down below to his YouTube channel where you can also follow his video where he goes into really a lot of detail in case you can't follow the written instructions. Me personally, I like to see it versus read it, and but he gives you both options here, which is great. So again, here's everything just opened up, and it's really just 3 wires that's going to be done on here. We have a blue ground wire, the white audio feed, and then we have to pull 5 volts to power this. This is basically a new amplifier. So we're going to bypass the amplifier in the Vectrex and use this little Buzzoff amplifier instead, and hopefully get really clean sound. So we see I have 2 Vectrex units. This is one that's a little more beat up. I didn't realize how bad it was until I opened it up and so dirty it got inside. But out of the 2 units, this is the one I decided to install the Buzzoff kit. So it's a pretty straightforward thing with the Vectrex. Again, it's a console with a built-in monitor. Now, Charles says this as well, and I'm going to say it as well. when you work on, say, ColecoVision or an Atari 2600, there's a chance of getting a shock from them. It's a console. It's running 110 outlet. I mean, I've gotten shock from 110 before, and it's like a bee sting. It's not bad, but I want to put a big word of caution here that this actually has a CRT monitor in it. And in the CRT monitor, there's a flyback in the back of the machine. I'll show you that in just a moment. And that can have 5,000 plus volts going through it. And it's actually pretty dangerous. So if you really are not comfortable doing this, maybe you should have someone do this for you. Maybe even bring it to a TV repair shop to put it in. It shouldn't take them long to do. But it is dangerous if you don't know what you're doing, and it could be lethal. So a word of warning that if you really don't know what you're doing and not good with a soldering iron or how to keep away from high voltage components, you might want to have someone else make this modification for you. Now my dog Blue here was a fan of the Vectrex as well, and I wanted to ask him, Blue, do you want me to leave this one alone and keep the buzz sound in here, or do you want me to get clean sound? So do you want to keep the buzz in? Well, looks like that's a big no, so we'll have to get rid of the buzz in this. Okay, Blue, thank you very much. I appreciate it, buddy. Okay, so when we get to the back of the unit, there's just a couple of screws we need to remove to open it up. I recommend putting a towel or something down so you don't scratch the front of your plastic. This one is pretty beat up anyway, so it wasn't much of a difference, but it's also good to not scratch your tabletop. And you just need a Phillips head screwdriver to get into the screws. There's going to be one here, two inside the handle up top. There's one in this area and then one on the other side, so a total of 5. Now this is your brightness control. Be very careful working around this. You don't want to damage this potentiometer because it's probably not going to be the easiest thing to replace. And if you don't, if you're not careful, you could damage it and maybe turn the brightness all the way up, which could do a burn-in and damage your CRT. And good luck trying to find a new one of those. So it's going to look straight up once we get the screws out. And mine was actually stuck down here. I'm not sure if it was a cartridge port or just some plastic had gotten a little stuck. Be careful, take your time, it'll come off once you get the 5 screws out. And you can see here are the bare boards. This is the one we're going to be concerned with. This is the main motherboard here with the modification we're going to do. Be very careful around this area. We'll have more pictures in a second. This is your CRT screen. We have a lot of voltage going through here. And this is our power board and amplifier board, which we're going to bypass the amp on here. But again, everything here, it's in a small area. Be very careful working in here. Make sure it's unplugged for sure. Okay, so you can see in here, you can see all these large capacitors here. They all hold voltages for quite some time, even if the machine is off. So definitely be careful in this area. And also in this area here, this is the back of the CRT. This is glass, and Charles says it as well. You could hit this and actually break it. And if you do that, this is a done Vectrex. There'll be no way of repairing the CRT once the glass here breaks. So be very careful in this whole area. Here's another shot of the board. You can see when I got this, I've never opened it up, and I've had this a number of years. And this is definitely not my dirt. I keep my stuff in a very clean room. So this is from the previous owner, and I'll give it a good cleaning before I seal it all up. It's also good to just keep dust off the chips, keep them cooler. The dust will always trap more heat than not having any dust on there. Now this is one potentiometer, I understand, has to do with some of the vectors on the screen. Be very careful working around this. You don't want to hit or adjust this. All we're really concerned about is we do need to remove some of these cables to get them out of the way. And this is the area we're working in this section over here. But we need to get the board out. Now, he does say you can probably get in here with a fine tip soldering iron, which I do have, and not take the board out. But in all honesty, I would take the time and get in here good versus trying to work in a very, very tight, restricted area. Again, if you're really good, if you feel like you can, go ahead. I decided to pull my board out. And just another shot of the back. Again, this is the very dangerous area. This has probably got 5,000+ volts of current in here. This is potentially lethal, so definitely keep away from this at all costs. Maybe even if you have rubber gloves, wear rubber gloves working in here if you can. Just again, very cautious of this area. And there's just a shot again of the backboard. Now, I noticed something when he was talking about his instructions to pull this board out. I didn't see this in his instructions, and I asked him about it, and it looks like it's a grounding wire going from the two boards. And Charles said it was just put in here to comply with FCC. It wasn't really needed. I did unsolder this versus cut it, and I did put it back just because that's how it was. But he does say it's really not necessary. If you do have this, you can remove it it's not necessary. So here's just a closer shot of it. Now, the solder here is old, and it's a thick glob, and it's a grounding wire, and it can dissipate heat very well. And we'll show you in a second. I did get this off, but there's a little piece of paper here. It's not too important, but just the temperature I had to get the solder off. Even though the soldering iron didn't touch this area, it did burn the paper. Again, anytime you're working on these older units, just be very cautious again. Again, just another shot. There's a danger area here again as well. Be very careful hitting this. Even just tapping this, theoretically, could shake this enough and crack this, and then this monitor is shot. Again, very dangerous in this area. And this is the whole power area, so be very careful in this area. Okay, now this is a plug we need to remove. We're going to have to, and again, you can't put these in wrong when you go to put them back or put them in the wrong spot. Each connector is different, and it only goes in one way because there's a little locking clasp. If you put it in the wrong way, it won't lock into position. But we do need to remove this jack right here and this jack right here to help us get the board out. And this is a soldering iron I got. I got this off eBay. I think I paid something like $30 for it. It was totally worth it. It's got adjustable temperature on here. The temperature is probably not entirely accurate, but it's a really nice little iron. It's got a really fine tip on it, and it works really well for me. I've been using it quite a bit. So again, it's a 936 soldering iron from China, and I think I paid $30 for it. Totally worth it to me. So again, I'm just going to go. I'm just going to heat up this solder and get this off. And you can see I did not touch this at all, but just the heat. This paper is so old and brittle, it still burned it a little bit. But again, it's really not a big deal. And I was able to get this off, and I did put it back in the end just to put it back in its original state. Now, another thing I want to show you here, this is the audio cable that we pull off from the front of the unit. I'll show you that in a second. But when Charles showed it in his video, he pulled it here, and he simply went and pulled the cable, and it pulled off the back. His unit probably didn't have this. Mine did. It had some electrical tape. So you have to remove this electrical tape first if you're going to pull this cable out. Now I actually left mine in. I'll show you why in a second. I didn't remove it completely because if you could see right in this area here, I'm going to zoom in, it made a heart, and I couldn't remove that. That's just telling me that even though I'm not going to be using the audio from this anymore, it was showing me some love, so I was not going to completely remove the cable. But if you do so, you have to take off a piece of electrical tape to get the cable completely out. And here is the speaker wire. This did go over into the amplifier board. Just give that a little tug and that will come right out, no problem. So he explains in the video, just grab the black wire gently and just give it a little tug and it will pull right off. And if you do want to remove this, if there's electrical tape, you got to do it first and then you can pull this out. Now this is the power board connector. Again, just be careful pulling it off. That's not really much more to say. Just pull it straight up. Sometimes you put a screwdriver in here just to pull the this back a little bit, and you can lift it right out. Now, once you do that and you pull your board out like I did here, there's still gonna be a couple cables going over to the machine, but you have more room to work. But very careful, because now all the weight is now on the front of the CRT, and if you let it go, it's just gonna fall forward and break and again possibly get damaged. So I did it where I was able to lean it against my staircase here, and I had a little groove here. I was able to make sure it didn't slide. But either that or have someone else holding it. But again, keep away from this area here. But you have to be cautious when you do pull this out, that all the weight is going to now transfer forward and it's going to want to drop forward. So be careful. And you can see how dirty this board is. I cleaned this up at the end. It's just dust, but again, it's just stuff you want to get off. Okay, here's the area we're going to work. Now this was the connector, the white connector I left in that had the heart on it. That goes up to your amplifier board, and then it came out of the amplifier board over to your speaker. Now I asked Charles why we could just put a connector on here, why do we have to solder to these 2 points, and he was saying that the potentiometer is here and here, and it does not translate to this. This is after the fact. So he was saying that if you would have put wires on here instead of going to here, the pot volume control wouldn't do anything. So unfortunately we can't put a simple connector on here, so we need to solder to this little guy and this little guy. And you can see once again how dirty this board is. It was a really disgusting mess. But probably the best thing to do is put a little fresh solder on both, because this solder is old, and if you just put the iron on, it's going to take a lot more heat. But if you put a little fresh solder on here, it'll melt a little bit easier, and you get your wires on. And you can see we have right here the 2 wires getting ready to be put on. And now originally I did it this way. The Buzzoff kit actually sits on this transformer here. It's got double-sided tape, sits right on there. Again, make sure it's nice and clean. I made sure to use good rubbing alcohol to clean the area for the double-sided tape. Then you have your two wires going over. Your white goes here and your blue goes here. And I did it this way first initially. And I wasn't happy with it, and because I didn't look at Charles' picture, I kind of went ahead of myself. Charles has it coming down this way, which I did redo, and I'll show you that in a second. But I did use the original audio cable spot here, which he showed in the video, to keep your wire out of the way. So again, you can see here, and I wasn't happy with the soldering job at all. The solder was old, and it just didn't really hear too well. So I redid it. You can see I came the other way. So my soldering iron I brought in this direction, and just pressed down on the wires, and they melted right into the solder, and it held in a lot better. Excuse all the hair and gook that's on here. So that's good. I just used a little rubbing alcohol just to clean this up after it was done. But that's it. So it's just one wire, but be very careful, because you do have this wire here, which again you're not going to be using, but why ruin it? But you have your controller connector here. So when you're getting your soldering iron in, just be very careful. Have a good steady hand, and you should be okay. Again, just another shot from different angle. I wanted to show all the lovely dust and grime that was on this board. Just sharing the love, my friends. Now, this is over here, the R329, which is by the transformer, and this is where we get the 5 volts from. And it's on the 329. It's to the right of the 9. It's all by itself. It looks like this. It's all by itself. Nothing's on it. So I put a little fresh solder on there and put the wire on. And my OCD was like, this wire is way too long. So I actually pulled it off, and I said I could do a little bit better job. And it was probably fine as it was. But you can see it's not above the 2, it's above the 9. It's just an empty pad. Put some solder on it and put your wire on. But sometimes you don't leave well enough alone. I shortened the wire, and this wasn't paying attention. You can see I nailed the plastic here. Glen's Retro Show always seems to hit something with a soldering iron and something, but usually it's always in an area that is not visible. And this will be inside the machine, so you're not going to see that. But man, it drives me crazy when it was perfectly fine, and I keep going back saying I can do it better, and then I don't pay attention on the 5th or 10th try, and then I screw up and make something like that. So again, just be very careful. The soldering iron is pretty hot, and it will go through the stuff pretty quickly, because it's just my luck. Orange wire coming down above the 9, and you're getting your 5 volts from here, and that's really it. Just 3 wires, 5 volts, audio, and ground. That's all this needs. And you can see that's it. Then you take your on the Buzzoff, there are 2 metal pins coming up here. When you get it, there'll be a piece of styrofoam on it. He does that to protect it in shipping. Just pull off the styrofoam and take the speaker wire that used to be going all the way over into here. Just put it right onto your Buzzoff board, and take the slack and put it in the speaker area in here. But again, that's it. So if your board's dirty like mine, this is a good chance to clean it up. Take a lot of precautions around here and here, these potentiometers, and take caution really about everything. Don't be you can use a compressed air gun, which is what I used initially, and a brush. But when you're using a brush, you have to just be careful. You don't want to be pressing down so hard you pull a resistor or a capacitor off, or break a solder joint, which you can do. These machines are very old. Just be gentle. Use common sense and take your time, and you won't make a little mistake like I did over here. Here's just a close-up shot again. You can see the Buzzoff board here. Speaker connector over here. Your 5 volts comes down here, and then your 2 speaker wires are over here. And just a shot in the back, giving you a better view of everything. Slide your board back in, and be very careful. Your cartridge connectors on this side. It should go in very smooth, very easily. It feels like you got some resistance. Something's not lined up. You don't want to damage your potentiometer in the front with your volume control on-off switch. Just take your time when you're doing it. Now, I'm not showing it in the video because, again, Charles had it. He also includes a potentiometer refresher kit where you're going to clean out the volume potentiometer and re-lubricate it. I did that already. I didn't show it in the video. He shows it just fine, but it's worth doing. It's just going to get all the gook and corrosion that could be in your volume control, and cleans it out, and puts in some fresh electrolytic lubricant in there to make sure it works smoothly and you get the best quality sound you can out of it. Now, when you go to put your machine back together, Charles mentions using a straw on the rear potentiometer, and this one controls your brightness. And it's a good idea, because if you try and put the lid on it and not paying attention, you can possibly break this, bend this, or rotate it to the point where it's on such a high brightness it actually could do some burn-in and damage to the screen. So by putting a straw in here, you're able to make sure that the case goes on easily and not hit your potentiometer over here. And again, here's your cartridge port. Make sure this is all lined up when you push this in. If it doesn't feel like it's going in right, it's probably not. Just take your time, and it should go in nice, smooth, and easy. Okay, we have the Buzzoff kit completely installed now from Charles Tweedy. And let's turn this on. This is the first time I'm turning it on. And let's see what we get. Hopefully no buzzing. That sounds really clean to me. Okay, let's give a game a go here and see how it sounds. Sneaky UFO right up the back. Not that time, kid. It's a different experience. It really is a different experience when you've had a Vectrex, as long as I have, and I'm sure many of you have, to play Mindstorm without hearing a buzz in the background. It's actually really feels like it's a new system, to be honest. Charles did a great job here. The kit was not hard to install. You just have to be careful because you do have the monitor there that has a lot of bolts going through it. But it really is really nice not hearing anything. And you don't hear any buzzing, which is the whole point of the Buzzoff. And I love it. Now I do have two Vectrexes, and I'm going to keep one stock just for the nostalgia value of the buzz. But to be quite honest, this is the one I'll probably be playing because it just, sometimes hearing nothing is better. It just really is a new experience playing this and not hearing anything else. Let me try and put another game in here and let's see how it works. Now I have a scramble cartridge I'd gotten off eBay for, I think it was like $3. It might need to be cleaned. So we'll see if it even works. It's missing its label anyway. Let's put that in there and let's fire it up. Again, clear sound, nothing else. That's great. Well, I have to say I'm definitely impressed with the Vectrex Buzzoff kit. It does exactly what it's supposed to do, and at only $34, I think it's a bargain. It gets rid of any background noise that really wasn't supposed to be there. Sure, the Vectrex has become infamous for having it, but there's no need to keep it in this day and age. And I think it wasn't hard to install. You do have to be cautious with certain components, but it's not a difficult install. I think Charles has done a fantastic job, and not only that, but this is only the beginning. Charles is actually working on some enhancements for the Buzzoff kit that'll have many other features, so be sure to take a look at his YouTube channel for updates on his Buzzoff enhancement kits. Of course, with something this nice, not everyone is going to be always happy with the end results. Ah! What project could I start today? I want to do something different. Wait a second. I got the Buzzoff kit for my Vectrex to get rid of all the noise and have cleaner sound.
Oh, you think you'll get rid of me that easy, huh? After all these years?
What are you going to do about it, Buzzoff B?